is a Dirshu Mishnah Berurah, Simin Chof Hey, Sif Yud, and the first half of Sif Yud Aleph. All today's learning has been generously sponsored and is incredible schos for Shlema for Chadvalea Basar Adina Mirz Hashem. She continue improving and Mirz Hashem hopefully coming home and having a complete Refuah Shlema, learning the entire Chabura of Allah every day. She bring Chadvalea Basar Adina an incredible schos Refuah Shlema. Apologies for a bit of the lateness of today's shir, but let's get right to it. Sif Yud begins with a perhaps very common or sometimes common case. If someone talks between the brachas, but it's for the purpose, the need of tefillin, as we know, that's the halacha, that anytime you talk, but you're talking for the item that you're doing, you ask past the salt, you're talking for the bread, then you don't make a new bracha. You come late or something of the sort, and while you're in between Shal Yad and Shal Rosh, you're Kaddish or Kedusha, Lo Yasik La Nasiman, don't answer. Which, but sometimes a little bit difficult because instinctively you say Amen. Don't answer. Pause. Listen, have kavanah to what you hear. As we'll see, that's called shaymeya ka'oineh. That listening is as if you're talking. Your ears are doing the amin, and then it's not a hefsek. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sevkatan Lamed Gimel Himsach Vafilu Himsach Min Birkas La'aniach. If let's say you're right there and you say la'aniach and you're about to tie in it, then whatever it means, you talk l'tzarich l'tefilin, still you don't make a new bracha because it's not a hefsek when you talk for the tefillin. Einoi chayzim avarich says Mishnah Berurah Sevkatan Lamed Daled, aber lechatchila as l'asiyah bein berach zaniach achar nachashal ad achar nachashal rish. Lechatchila, of course, we don't talk at all until from the aniach until you put on the shal rish. I feel a bit varm shein tzarich tefillin. Im lo yecha she'av shebinyan achar, unless it's impossible. Ach bechol hamayit shein mevarchen, as we've already seen one kula about chol hamayit and tefillin shal beinu tam. Similarly over here on chol hamayit, since you don't make a bracha, efshar dishlak lechatchila varm shein tzarich tefillin. Perhaps it's more lechatchila, and similar as we've seen to answering Amen, etc., between Shal Yad and Shal Rosh by Chol Hamayit and Tefillin Derabinu Tam. Why exactly the Mishnah Berurah over here only points out Tefillin Shal Chol Hamayit and Derabinu Tam, I do not know. Let's continue. Mishnah Berurah Sevkatan Lamed Hey Lo Yafsik. Vafilu Amin al bracha zu gufa. Even it's on this bracha, meaning you hear the guy next to you putting on Tefillin. Still, you should not say Amin. Ki goyin lanas Amin al bracha Tefillin Shem Varech Acher. Also, unless your friend is having a mind to yoy to you, you're not making the bracha for whatever it's reason, you have a suffix, and he's being yoy to you, then you could say Amen. But if not, and again, a very common case, two people come to shul at the same time and they're making the bracha a little bit loud. So I finish my laniach and he's making his laniach, he's making his on his al mitzvahs tefillin. Don't say Amen. Lana yisimahim. So what do? You stop and you have kavanah to be yoytzei. Sevkatan Lamed Vav says the Mishnah Berurah. V'im pasek vana Amen yesh miraboi kedusha ar baruch hu shan Amen aliza bracha sheshama chayzer mavarich. You have to make a new bracha ayin beralacha. Ubachol hamayid, and here it is. Oh yamin yirtzon devin atam say Shemini Li Bracha Yishahak Lahafsik Lanias Amen Yishmei Rabba Kedusha Baruch Amen Kvi Mekel and say Amen Ach Achakach Yazis Shal Yad Memekaymai Kaidim Sheniach Shal Rosh Shemove the Shal Yad before you put on the Shal Rosh Kadeshi Havaya Achas L'Shneim, so you have one Havaya for both of them. Shaizik V'Shemia Tashtiga Kaniel Lin Yazidei Chayva, because listening, being quiet is like answering with regard to being Yoitzi obligation, and it's not considered a hefsek. Says the Mechaber Sif Yod Aleph. After you put on the Shal Yad, you put on the Shal Rosh before you wrap the strands around your arm. Shita number 1. V'yesh mishaymer, the second opinion. Sha'also lo yitzia tefillin shal rosh me'atik. Don't take out the tefillin shel rosh until the tefillin shel yad is ready placed. Says the Rambam. Let's say they're both out of the bag. Don't open up the box until you put on the tefillin shel Yad. I don't know what just happened. And this is where we're going to stop in the Ramah as per Dirshu's calendar. The truth is, it's a new topic in the Ramah. Ramah is about to get into. Do you make the bracha on the Tefillin Shel Yad and Tefillin Shel Rosh standing or sitting, and as we know, it's going to be a machlokes, Sfardim Ashkenazim. Says in the Mishnah Berurah, what's the reason? The bracha of La'aniach goes also on your Shel Roish, Kanal Sivkot Lamed Aleph, as we saw yesterday. V'kol Shekin Lamechaber Lo Sevhei. Tisvilu Deina Baruch Elachas, and certainly the Fidim Mechaber. And as we pointed out, is also the minhag of certain Chasidim that they only make one bracha, so the bracha is also going on your Shel Roish, and even the Fida Ashkenazim we said that the Iker bracha is going on, and that's what they say Baruch Shem. Again, you might have some Chamash Yuchal. You should minimize the hafsik, the amount of time between the two, as much as possible. That's not make radin. Al kein toiv la'acher oisa achiniach Shel Roish. Do it after you put on the Shel Roish. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Sefer Kavanus Arizal Koso Sheino Yilech or Chashiva Kricha. And everyone was wondering what's going on. We don't just put on our tefillin shel yad and don't put on our hand, put on our Shel Roish, and then do the 7 wrappings. Says Mishnah Berurah, that's the Arizal. The Kavanis Arizal says you put the 7 on your hand, then you put on your tefillin shel Roish. That's but not the 3 on your finger. Mibnei Shusayver Kim de Lechatchila Gama Kricha Isu Mitzvah. Says the Arizal, since the 7 wrappings are part and parcel of the mitzvah, therefore it's not called a hafsik. Says Mishnah Berurah, strong lashon, that is the min according to the Pri Megadim. He holds as well like this Arizal, but he gives a different reason. Not like the Arizal that the 7 wrappings are the mitzvah. He says because if you don't do it, it's going to fall off. And it's only called kshira, tied, if it's tight on your hand. That's why you do the wrappings around your arm. Ayin sham. Obviously, remind me, Mordechai. Im sham, HaKadosh Kedusha Achar Shebarach Al Shal Yad. Vim Yikroich, Lo Yepanai Lo Nich Shal Roish La'anois. And let's say you hear HaKadosh Kedusha, and if you do the 7 wrappings, you're not going to have enough time to put on the Shal Roish and then answer to Kadosh Kedusha. What should you do? Yonich Shal Roish Koydem HaKrichos. Put on the Shal Roish before you do the 7 wrappings. Im Yachol. But be careful. You got to somehow make it tight. So you don't make it tight, it's going to fall off, and then it's not going to be good. So we're seeing from this Mishnah Berurah that the minhag is to make the 7 wrappings. But if there is a scenario that you need a rush to answer Kaddish or Kedusha, do as much as you can just to get it tight, and then continue and do it afterwards so you can answer Kaddish or Kedusha. Says the Mishnah Berurah, on the Ish Aimrim, that you're not allowed to take out the Tefilin Shel Roish from the tick until the Tefilin Shel Yad is menachas. And excuse me, I read it wrong when I said the Machaber, it's 2 opinions. That was din 1 in the Machaber about the 7 krichos. Now yesh mishamer another din. Don't take out the tefillin shel roish until the tefillin shel yan is on your hand. Sha'aser. Says Mishnah Berurah. I know afilu mir telaitzi shel roish shel yan shneim mishavim. I think you want to take out both at the same time. Tibazain maver al mitzvahs because you took them out together. Afilu acha yesh lazar. Don't do that. Kesh v'zetam al bikabola which goes to base Yosef to take out the shel yan first and leave the shel roish in the back. Kol shkel aniach shel yan miyadai. Ulahasik but so shel roish, and certainly don't put down the shel yan and then pick up the shel roish, because then ultimately you're gonna have to put down the shel roish and put on the shel yan, and then you be over mafir al mitzvahs. So you should not do a medina also. And therefore said the Mishnah Berurah. Said the Rabbah, even if they're both outside the tick, don't open up the shel roish. Munachas, says the Mishnah Berurah, Tzalaimers have gotten mem. Shetei mu'udekas yafal roish, be tight in your hand. Then it's mutter before you put on the 7 wrappings, as we saw. V'machar yachal aitzia l'atakit shel roish ba'oish chaver munach shel yad. Prigadem machmar tzachai mekel ayin sham. Before we call it a day, we have one more Mishnah Berurah, Sivkata and Mem Aleph, that the Ramah said, you should not open up the box. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Lo yitakin, Ratzalaymar, afilu in beis tikkun shel roish lo yinech shel yad gam kim yada. You don't put down the shel yad. Afilu achi shaviniach shel roish lo yinech shel yad avi kamaver al ha mitzvahis. Let's spend one moment. Let's look at the Dirshu over here. Says the Dirshu that note number 43. If you went and said on main to Kaddish Kedusha, it is a hafsik, you have to make a new bracha. Says the Dirshu. However, if someone made a bracha that you want to be mekayim, shebertzon lekayim, or you made a berachas ananin, and then you were mafsik by saying amen. We're going to see in Reish Tes Vav that's a machlokes similar. Is it the same thing as our case? And there's no hachra. So to the Magen Avraham is, and that's where the Magen Avraham says not like the Tas. And basically, what we have to realize is that not every bracha is the same, because here you have a berachas mitzvah is not necessarily going to be the same as berachas ananin, etc. We said you're quiet, and the aniyah, the shtika ka'aniyah, being quiet, your ears are as if you're being yotzei the mitzvah. And Dirshu over here points out, are you able to do this lechatchila? The shemea koina lechatchila. We're going to see in Siman Nandalit. It's not true. It's lechatchila to make the bracha yourself. Shemea koina is not the same level as lechatchila. And therefore, if someone gets his tefillin between Yishtabach and Kaddish, you put it on then, and you're only able to complete it until the Shat says Amin Yishmei Rabbah, or you're ready for Kaddish Kedusha. But if you're not able to do it, then you should have Yeser, you should wait, because again, Shtika Ka'aniyah is not the same level. And then we said, that's a bir halacha. Let's continue over here. Says note number 46. We says because the krichos around your hands are not meikar adin. We quoted our Rizal, and that's what the minig of the Olam is, to make the 7 krichos. We said so, and says Dirshu based off of this. What do we see? Halacha, which I think is known. Note 46. Someone has a mak on his hand, and because of that, he's not able to put the ratzuyos around his hand. Or some Zaman Arbach writes, it's better that you should do it. But you should surround it without the krichos. Until your finger, and then put the 3 on, because then you could put on the tefillin. You can wear the tefillin for longer, and it's not going to hurt you as much. And similar is going to be if someone has a cast on his hand, you still can put the tefillin on top without the krichos. As we're seeing, the krichos are not meikar as din, as long as you're able to tighten the tefillin shal yad, doesn't move from its place. We'll pick it up from the rest of Siman Yud Aleph in the next shiur.